All right, our next guest was built with Heisman Trophy DNA, People Magazine's sexiest man alive in '86, always very gracious with his time for a good cause, an actor, a writer, a quarterback, and the only guy that could make you want to attend summer school, Mr. Shoop. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Harmon. How are you, Mark?
Good morning.
Hey, man, I got to tell you, the very first movie I ever saw in the theater, no lie, 9 years old, summer of 1987. My mom took me to see Summer School, and forever my life was changed.
Wow, that tells me a lot about your mom.
Yeah, it sure does. She's kind of the cool mom, you know?
Well, I was fortunate to... I always think about Carl Reiner in that movie. He was special, and I was so fortunate to run into him at that time. And you put your trust in someone like that. You get fortunate enough to work with someone like that. That was a real gift as a starter for me.
And it was a great memory with me and my mom. Literally the first movie I remember going to see at the theater. I've heard you talk about great memories with your dad. You went to Super Bowl I with your pops. What was L.A. Coliseum, Super Bowl I? Wow.
I was running copy from the press box to the basement. That's where the teletype machines were. I worked, with my dad sometimes when he broadcasted, and I remember that idea I remember him talking about it at the breakfast table about Pete Rozelle having the idea of a Super Bowl kind of game. It wasn't called the Super Bowl at the time, but that's what it became, and certainly a good idea, right?
Yeah, 59. I think they're on number 59 this year. Have you attended many Super Bowls since that first one?
No, I have not. Just that was the only one I've ever been to.
And do you have any interest in going to another one? People that don't know, our guest here, Mark Harmon, was a heck of a quarterback at UCLA himself.
I don't know. We all are so spoiled in what television offers now when it comes to watching sporting events, and I do like watching from the stands. I do appreciate the opportunity to look at what I want to look at as opposed to what the television tells me to look at. But listen, it's all part of it. I kind of grew up with my dad like that in the press box, and so I'm used to seeing it from up high, and that comes as a player as well.
And you're doing less watching these days and more reading with this new book. Our guest, Mark Harmon, New York Times best-selling author, has connected again with his good friend Leon Carroll Jr. on another book. This one's called Ghosts of Panama. It's touching on the work of the NCIS agents in Panama in the late 80s. I'm not as familiar as the history of what was going on in Panama in 1989 and the facts surrounding this book, but why was Panama so dangerous, and why was the U.S. so interested at this time?
Well, the canal, number one, and obviously that's a big thing to try to control, and it like many things at the time, it put people potentially in harm's way, and in the case of NCIS agents, that included their families. So people who were deployed to do a job in a faraway country, and certainly with a powerful figure like Noriega, and what the United States had in some ways been complicit in making him, it became a dangerous place very quickly. So people who were there during that 4, 5, 6, 7 day period, they remember it. And Leon Carroll, my partner in this, he was one of them. He was a young agent at the time, and so this story for him individually is special.
And these agents, they're sworn to secrecy as being a secret agent. It's in the name.
They don't talk about it ever. I mean, before the TV show, if you looked up NCIS, there wasn't any information on it. Now, if you look it up, there's pages and pages and pages, and most of it is about a TV show. So they don't generally speak about what they do, and that's also been interesting, is being able to ask people who are now able to talk about it, to tell their story.
Yeah, and did it feel good giving these people a voice? Because for all these years they had to keep these secrets. Is that something that really drove you to this?
It's been gratifying to allow people to talk about what they want to talk about and tell the story that was important to them. And in doing that, it defines certainly the time and gives new dimension to parts of any tale about anything that you've never heard before. And so to provide this voice, so to speak, that's kind of been initially, it was the same thing on Honolulu. The only difference is that's going back into history, and you just there's so many different stories to tell. It's just a question of picking which direction you want to go in.
The new book is called Ghosts of Panama. It's penned by our guest here, Mark Harmon and Leon Carroll Jr. You had such an incredible career with NCIS, 17 years. You were on the West Wing. You've portrayed these roles of real-life agents similar to the ones in Ghosts of Panama. How did this influence your approach to telling this story? Did you feel like you had an edge up because you've had all these years of playing the role on television?
I'm an actor. These guys, the male and female, these individuals, they lived it. So I'm not trying to cross over into the real life of any of them. What I do is make believe what they did affects their lives, their daily lives, their families. It's a whole different question for them to be part of, opening up these different stories, or even in some ways having an opportunity to tell about this agency in a way. I mean, I don't think the agency itself cares one bit whether people tell about them or not. They're still quiet about what they do. They still do quiet work and important work. And the agents who do that work generally keep their mouths shut because that's part of the job. It's really this TV show that's opened that up, and I'm part of that because 20 years ago, I went on a job interview. That's how it works. So that I've learned that I've had a technical advisor named Leon Carroll who, 20-some years ago said, hey, if you have any questions, ask. Well, that's what I did. I used every day. I talked to him and ask him about how he would do something, what he would do something, what he remembers about doing something like this. Did you ever have an opportunity to do this? That friendship is what has sprouted this idea to write these stories, and that's what we're doing now. We're telling these stories. So I don't know that we'll continue to do this, but for right now, it seems to be working.
And they're real stories. This isn't any drama made up by a Hollywood script. This is real life stories. And I know some of this stuff, is top secret information. As you're doing these interviews, was there a moment where there's like a line where it's like, hey, I can't talk about that? Or were there no boundaries at this point? Are we getting the whole story?
Yeah, you can ask anything you want to ask, but they're not used to. This agency isn't about. This agency really isn't a TV show. So they don't feel indebted to talk. They say what they want to say. As an author or someone being interested, you have an opportunity to frame a question, but it doesn't mean that they're going to answer it, and doesn't mean that you're talking to the right person to get the answer you're looking for. I think this television show has opened up more of that than anything. And I think before the television show, no one really knew about this agency, and that was by design because that's what they do is quiet work. 17
seasons with NCIS, such a huge achievement to be able to have a network show and be the star of the show for that long. Any advice for any up-and-coming actors that want to have longevity in the business? What kind of advice would you give them?
I don't have any. For me, it was about trying to work and trying to find opportunities where you could grow as an actor, and trying to work with talented people who shared your view of what it is you were trying to do. From job to job. When I first walked on the set and shook hands with David McCallum, I guess I was standing there a bit in awe of him, and he kind of looked at me and said, "What?" And I said, "I just can't imagine I'm shaking hands with Ilya Kuryakin." And he said, "Good God, man," and he walked away. I just think the opportunity is what you work for in this business, and to get to a place where you can choose what it is you want to do or who you want to work with. That's rare, and I appreciate that, and I think choice is part of growth, and you take that which direction it takes you. This one certainly lasted a lot longer than anyone expected.
All right, one final question before I let you go. Mark Harmon, our guest here. Back to my favorite movie as a kid, Summer School. You were wearing a lot of rock and roll T-shirts, I noticed, as Mr. Shoop that summer. Rolling Stone shirt, a Springsteen shirt. Who is your favorite band? Were you the one picking out those shirts? You love the Stones, you love Springsteen, or was that just in wardrobe?
No, it was all part of the writing team, and every shirt was, believe me, very, very thought about and detailed. And I'm just an actor, so whatever was hanging in my trailer, that's what I put on. But it's interesting, both between the T-shirts and between the Hawaiian shirts, how both of those have become noteworthy about that movie.
Yeah, it still stands up to this day. Our guest, Mark Harmon, go grab his new book, Ghosts of Panama, a good grab for the holiday. Thanks for your time, Mark, and good luck as you continue on writing these great stories.
Welcome. Thank you.